4 boys.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
415 passenger on board aircraft.
Control 2 Franklin en route.
484 suspect is female, Hispanic, 28 years of age, blue jeans, no further.
Control 5 Frank 401 is en route.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat radio program. We're glad that you are joining us today for this edition as we are just coming back off the road, having been out to Florida, the Alabama coast, as well as Mississippi, doing some training as well as working with a couple of groups to open school locations in the Pensacola, Florida area, as well as Gulfport, Mississippi, and we'll be talking about that in the upcoming weeks as we begin to really ramp up our expansion of Armour College. But it's really good to be back here in front of the radio today. We're back in the office, and as always, the phones are ringing off the hook. People are needing my attention, tons of emails to answer, paperwork to do. And you know, if you own a business of any type, then you know that besides doing the job that you love to do, there's always a ton of other chores, business dealings, and things that you just gotta get through, gotta get done, no matter how hard it is to accomplish or how much you hate doing it. But so we have a lot of things that we're having to go over and complete, and just a lot of business stuff that kind of goes by the side when you're out of the office, things that you can't put on anyone else to do. And so we're doing a lot of that today and tomorrow and probably the rest of the week, as well as answering a lot of the emails that we weren't able to get to while we were on the road. But we had a great time training coastal security over there in Pensacola and Drex Executive Protection over in Gulfport. We really enjoyed getting out on the road and meeting people, meeting POI members that we've talked to or talked via email to or text, and really getting to see our people out there doing the job, doing the work that we all do to protect lives and property. So it was a great time out on the road. And of course, Pensacola, you know, Gulfport, Mississippi, Gulf Shores, Alabama. We're talking about beautiful, beautiful coast, right on the Gulf Coast, and it's beautiful. I often tell people, you know, it's just like being in the Caribbean, you know, blue-green waters, palm trees, very blue skies, lots of sunshine, and just a great place to not only vacation, but to live. And I should know because I've lived there a couple of times during my lifetime. But I regress, and we're back talking right now about Private Officer Beat Radio. So many folks are listening not only to the live programs, but also to the recorded on-demand programs. And again, just to kind of clarify, many people do have podcasts, and there's all sorts of podcast platforms that you can record on, all sorts of programs that are free, some that have a slight cost to them. But the difference between a podcast and a radio show is the radio show is live. It's something that you can call into. It's something that you can listen to right then and there as it's being broadcast. A podcast is pre-recorded for the most part, and just there for you to listen to whenever it's convenient for you. But we really love doing the radio show, and I really wish that we could do it more often. And in fact, there were a few times when we actually tried to do it on an almost daily basis, but because of my schedule, you know, unfortunately, it just did not work out. I want to thank everyone who has wished me a happy birthday today. I'm 100 years old, Well, I feel like it most of the time. But I really appreciate all of those birthday wishes on social media, as well as text, those who have texted me and messaged me and called. Thank you, and thank you. Honestly, as you get older, time does go by faster. You look at your life, what you've accomplished and what you had hoped to accomplish, and sometimes there's disappointments and sometimes there's regrets, but you know what? We just have to go on with life as it is and learn from our past and try to live our days the best we can. So I don't really feel any older, and hopefully I don't look much older, but you know, I know it's hard to beat back age, beat back the effects of getting older, so I guess it's time for surgery, plastic surgery. Gonna wash that gray right out of my hair. Oh, Lord. No, that's not for me. I've never used any type of makeup or any type of hair color or plastic surgery or any of that. There are plenty of men who do use all of those chemical washes to color their hair, as well as getting Botox and getting plastic surgery just like women. I mean, oh my gosh. Come on. You know, you're not going to live any longer by doing that stuff than if you don't do it. In fact, you're probably going to live longer if you don't have all that plastic in your body and all of those chemicals on your hair. And I don't know. But I don't feel any older. And I'm hoping that it doesn't change anytime soon. I'll give you a full report, I guess, later on down the road. We've had over 425 shows, radio shows. We've been doing our news blogs and our weekly blogs that we do for the last 15 years. Time continues to march on, but we're still doing all of the stuff that we've been doing right there all along, and I don't have any plans on changing, so you can expect the radio shows and the blogs and POI, Private Officer International, to continue, not going to the grave anytime soon, folks, so, I guess you're going to have to get used to it. We do want to welcome a brand new member in Tanzania. We've got several members over there now. That individual is listening right now, as a matter of fact, to our radio program live, and we hope to have them call in, both he and the other POI member, call in on the radio show in the upcoming weeks. They're actually interested in starting a chapter over there, so we're really excited about that, and we'll keep you abreast, keep you advised of what's happening. If you are interested in starting a chapter, whether it be here in the U.S. or someplace else, I know that we've recently had a strong interest from Toronto, Canada, and we're looking to partner with that group up there. But if you are interested in opening a chapter, please contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. They will get you started on the journey. It's a short process, a couple of forms, applications, a few minimum things you have to do, and you'll be on your way. Just call us or send us an email, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Well, I get asked quite often about how we're combining our training services with Armor College with POI, and is there a difference? And there is a difference. We have still a few courses that we offer through POI, but almost everything has been transferred over to curriculum with the Armor College format. And in the next couple of weeks, I'd say probably 3 to 4 weeks, you're also going to see some news about our upgrading our designations, our certifications, professional certifications. Some of you have taken the CAPP program or the retail certifications. We have now, I believe, 9 or 12, somewhere in there, credentialed certifications for professionals, and we're going to be reintroducing them. and they have a much more formatted method of qualifying. You'll also receive a uniform bar for your uniform, and you'll have to take some continuing education units through the 2 or 3 year period to recertify. But we'll be releasing all of that information in the upcoming weeks. We also announced about 2 months ago now, I guess, that we have group memberships. If you have a large, medium, or even small size security company, proprietary department with a hospital or a school, a campus, or a business, and you want to have all of your members become POI members, all you have to do is sign on at privateofficer.com and go to the membership page, and right there is going to be a link for the group membership, so you can have get all of your officers enrolled for a much more cost-effective fee for a large group or a small group than if you were going to do it on an individual basis. And again, if you need any information, if you need help, contact helpdesk at privateofficer.com. Helpdesk at privateofficer.com. We have added quite a few member benefits. We just added Avis, and we have Hertz, car rental, Holiday Inn Express, and a number of other benefits also soon to come online. So we've got a lot of benefits for our members, much more than any other professional group out there. And I challenge you to find any professional group. I don't care if they're medical doctors or swim instructors or pro bowlers, whatever they might be. There's not going to be any group out there that offers more member benefits than we do. And I've said this a number of times on the radio program and in person. I belong to a lot of professional organizations. Usually I pay a lot of money up front, hundreds of dollars for membership, and receive a piece of paper, a certificate saying that I'm a member. And that's about all. But with us, you're going to get a lot of usable member benefits. So if you're not already a member, please go to the website at privateofficer.com, click on the membership page, enroll, sign up today, become a member, become an active member. Don't just put your certificate on the wall, but become an active member and be part of what's happening with Private Officer International. We have a lot of news to tell you about today. We're going to talk also about disruptive and disorderly persons, about the national news with the increased protest and defiant individuals, and we're going to talk a little bit about terrorism and terrorists. In this month, the month of April, there's already been 23 terror attacks across the globe, and several prevented right here in the U.S. So we're going to talk about those in the upcoming moments, but we do want to go over some of the headlines, and also in the last week we've had a number of security officer deaths. I don't know if you're keeping up with those or not. I know that we send out the information, and we're always hopeful that people are going to read the information and get the information out to others. We hope that it will be used for training. I know a lot of companies do tell us that they do use our news and information for training. There's a lot of good information that can be derived from our newsletters and our news websites. It's not always bad news or sad news. Some people think that it is, but news is news. It is what it is, and we can't make it up. But I do want to talk right after this break, when we come back, about the fallen officers, the fallen private officers this year so far, and the increase that we're seeing once again. I mean, there was a little bit of a lull in private officer deaths last year in 2016, a little bit in 2015, but now at the pace that we're going, I think we're going to surpass the past 2 or 3 years easily. and it's really kind of tragic. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat. Again, my name is Rick McCann. I'm the founder and CEO of Private Officer International, Armor College, and a number of other companies. But today, we're really here to talk about private security, private law enforcement, loss prevention, asset protection, and all those things that basically are protecting life and property from the private side. So we'll take this quick break, and we'll be right back with you here on the Private Officer Radio.
It's from my wife.
My husband still doesn't know the real story about that dent in the van.
I've never told her that I used to be a lifeguard at a nude beach.
I've never told my kids about the time I was arrested for streaking.
My friends don't know that I still sleep with my teddy bear.
But they all do know one thing about me.
And that's that I'm an organ donor.
That I'm an organ donor.
I'm an organ donor.
I'm an organ donor.
And that's one thing that's too important to keep a secret. Because I could save somebody's life. And how cool is that?
There was the explosion, and I remember just opening my eyes, and it got both of my legs. I had surgery after surgery, and what's going to happen next? The Wounded Warrior Project said, look, brother, everything's going to be okay. 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, you'll be fine. I don't know if I would be as well adjusted as I am now if it wasn't for them.
To learn more, call 1-877-832-6997 or visit Wounded.
All right, welcome back to the Private Officer Beat Radio. We're very happy. We're very happy. We're glad that you all are here, wherever you might be. And as we were saying earlier before we took our little commercial break, we often get people who do listen to the show and they don't call in, but they do send us an email or send us something on Facebook saying how they really enjoyed the show. And it's always a blessing to hear from people who really like what we're doing. So I guess we'll be doing it a little while longer. We're really in the prime of the radio show. I'm kind of looking forward to hitting 1,000 radio show programs. So I guess we got a little ways to go, but we're working on it. Hey, I do want to remind you, for those of you who are loyal, everyday private officer news readers, if you've gone to our site lately, the Private Officer Media site where we publish all of our news, you may notice that it's down and not being used. It's actually been down for about 5 weeks, I guess now, maybe 6. And that's because we are redoing that site as we are working on a magazine TV format, and that site will soon be published out in a new format, a new style, and it'll have a lot more news and videos, interviews, and really be formatted to a TV magazine type program or format. And so we hope to get that out within the next 2 weeks. That's what I've been told anyways. We are having some issues with the website, but we are gonna get that out sooner than later. I'm hoping somewhere around 2 weeks, and if not, we'll definitely update you as to what's happening. But in the meantime, if you go to either Twitter and follow us on Twitter, so twitter.com/private officer, you're going to see all of our tweets, all of our news links, news stories, about 100 times a day. It's a very active social media site. Or you can join us on Facebook if you are a Facebook fan. Be sure to follow us there because we also publish all of our news there. We also have another blog on Blogger, which is Google, and we update the same news stories every day there. So maybe you're catching our news headlines on the Blogger for the time being. If you're not sure what we're talking about and we've got you more confused than I don't know what, then just send an email to helpdesk@privateofficer.com, and we will send you the link where you can follow our news until our new TV magazine format is up and running on the web. Again, if you have any questions or if you want to follow us, just go to privateofficer.com, and you can follow us on social media, or send us an email, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, and we'll send you the link to our current blog there. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening. I said as we were taking our break, so far this month, there's been 23 terrorist attacks around the world. You've heard about the ones in France, but there's also been others in Pakistan and the UK, Ireland, Afghanistan. There's been attacks in Greece. There's been attacks right here in New York City and a number of other locations in the U.S. that has been stopped by law enforcement. I know if it's not in front of us 24/7, we tend to forget about it. But the facts and the truth are that terrorists are more prevalent today in the U.S. than they were during the 9/11 era. They're just not showing themselves as much as we thought that they would after 9/11. I know that they're hiding. I know that they're planning. Like I said, police, law enforcement has arrested numerous, dozens, I'm talking about maybe even more than 100 in the U.S. since 9/11. And sometimes because it's low-key, it's not something that's published or out in the forefront every day, we tend to forget about it. But we really need to keep our guard up and remember that ISIS and ISIS supporters are right here in the U.S. And I'm saying all of this because as private law enforcement, private security, even law enforcement that's full-time, it's not really a subject that we're constantly having to deal with, and we don't have to respond to those, thank God, those situations every day. So it's hard sometimes for us to, remember it or think that it's going to happen to us, or it could be, could be our neighbors who might be a terrorist. But a security officer in Denver this year was killed, shot to death, a transit security officer, by someone who claimed to be ISIS. A security officer was shot to death in Florida earlier this year by someone who said that he was a terrorist and that he was doing it for ISIS, and he would kill anyone that was in uniform, whether they were law enforcement, military, or even private security. It made no difference to him. And that's exactly what the gentleman out in Denver, Colorado said when he killed the transit security officer for no other reason other than he was wearing a badge and a uniform. The sad story is that, terrorists come in all size, shapes, colors, and there are many locally grown terrorists, our neighbors, people that we've gone to school with could be. There are many enemies within. And to prove that, just last week in Galveston, Texas, an unarmed hotel security officer making his patrols through a parking lot spotted what he thought to be a couple of suspicious persons near a vehicle, and as he approached them, they opened fire, hitting him 11 times and killing him. Now, law enforcement believes that they were gang members, possibly the Bloods. Well, as far as I'm concerned, gang members are terrorists. They're local, homegrown terrorists who prey on people for no other purpose than to kill and harm. And unfortunately, those suspects in that shooting and that murder are still on the loose. This year, so far, 36 security officers have been killed in the line of duty. 36 people. 36 have died. 11 so far in the month of April. In fact, just in the last couple of weeks, we had a number of security officers killed. In fact, let me read this to you. Beginning with April the 3rd, a security officer died from a medical condition. April the 8th, a security officer was struck and killed by a tractor trailer. A security officer was shot to death at a Motel 6. A security officer was shot to death at a nightclub. Another security officer was shot to death at an apartment. Another security officer shot at a hotel. Another security officer killed by a vehicle assault by a fleeing theft suspect. Another security officer succumbed to gunshot wounds after being shot a half a dozen times. Another security officer died from a medical emergency. And just this weekend in Kingston, North Carolina, another security officer died after being critically injured, beaten to death by suspects that were causing a confrontation at the hotel. This year, we've had, like I said, in the first 4 months of this year, we've had a lot more security officers killed in the line of duty than we did the previous 2 years. It's pretty heart-wrenching when you think about the majority of the security officers and even private law enforcement. There are a number of private police agencies on school campuses, colleges that are not armed. There's several colleges right now in Rhode Island and Massachusetts that are fighting to be armed. They patrol every day. They make arrests. They make traffic stops. They respond to every type of call that you can imagine on their campus and their jurisdiction. Some even going outside of the campus grounds and going to student residents that are off campus and office complexes where they have administrative offices, and they're unarmed. A good friend of mine, and while I'm thinking of this, I do want to send out best wishes to our friend Mike Thornhill in Nashville, Tennessee. He had surgery, and we hope that he is doing well. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. But a friend of mine, in fact, Mike Thornhill, is a security chief at a campus in Nashville, just outside of Nashville, and they're unarmed. And they travel not only all around their campus, which is an open complex, but also all around for many blocks around their school. And they patrol a lot of territory unarmed by themselves, and it's a great concern. Security officers today, they just don't need to be unarmed. Most positions, most assignments are going to call or do call for armed security. If you don't have a weapon, you can't protect yourself. And if you can't protect yourself, you can't protect anybody else. I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, really, it's all common sense. Unfortunately, it's a battle that we've been fighting for many, many years. I just don't think it's going to get any better. A couple of news headlines from Michigan City, Indiana. An off-duty police officer working for the hospital shot a man who had a firearm and I guess would not put it down. He's in critical condition. A security officer in Detroit, Michigan is under investigation after a shooting at a lodge social club where he and another man exchanged gunfire and evidently struck a patron who had nothing to do with the situation and killed her, and he could face murder charges. In Huntington, New York, school security officer DeWitt McCall died after a medical emergency, and according to the information that we had, he was also a coach and was well loved. In Massachusetts and New England, a lot of private security companies there are looking to expand their business by getting into the cannabis protection business. Now that has kind of a connotation that, it's illegal and it's bad, and that's true. Even though some states have legalized the use of medical marijuana and even personal marijuana, is still against federal law, and therefore law enforcement cannot work off-duty security at any marijuana dispensary or grow farm or transportation. They can't be involved. Neither can armored cars. They can't transport any money that's made or derived from the marijuana business. So there are some smaller security companies who are looking toward the cannabis industry as a possible way to grow their business, and they all attended in New England the New England Cannabis Convention last week, and we are monitoring that. We actually offer a course, a 60-hour course at Armour College for those who are getting into the cannabis protection or who currently work there. So if security officers are going to be protecting that type of business, they need to be properly trained, and so we have a great course. Also in the news, Dayton, Ohio area rangers have recently been equipped with naloxone or Narcan because of the many incidents of overdoses in the metro parks, and this gives them a quick and easy way to stop that drug from taking effect, and hopefully, they can do some good. In Nashville, Tennessee, a couple of convicted felon juveniles escaped a G4S private jail facility, and are still on the run today. G4S has a number of facilities in Florida and other states, and I don't know. Maybe it's training, maybe it's just, it can happen any place, who knows. But I've seen a lot of headlines where there's been incidents with G4S and their private jail facilities. In Salt Lake, Utah, a security officer working with Peak Security is being credited with saving a choking victim. Security officer Lauren Hill saved the victim at the Utah Driver's License Division. So good job, and keep up the good work. In Massapequa, New York, mall security at Sunrise Mall was able to assist police with arresting a burglar who broke into the mall around 1 a.m. Over the weekend, and police have taken that suspect into custody. You see all the good stuff that security is getting involved in everywhere. Private law enforcement, private security, they're doing great work every day, and they're getting little credit. So that's why we're reading the news headlines, and we encourage you to go to privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. That's our blog, our daily news blog, and you can sign up to receive that wherever you're at. Cedar Point Amusement Park, there in Sandusky, Ohio, recently announced that they have added metal detectors for the first time ever to all of their entrances. They're just going to tighten up security, and there's been no recent situations that brought that to be. They just want to increase security according to what they said. A Miami Beach club security officer was seriously injured over the weekend, and a Phoenix, Arizona strip club bouncer was shot. Both situations happened by irate customers that were being escorted out of the businesses, and this is a bad situation. Security officers at the club, they do a good job keeping weapons out, but once we've escorted somebody out of the building, we're really going to have to keep eyes on them, because a lot of times they will come back with firearms or other weapons. So it is the dangers of the business. In Nashville, Tennessee, beautiful city, Vanderbilt engineering students developed recently a smart police vest that actually calls for backup. When the vest detects a blow to the vest of any type, it notifies dispatch that the officer has been possibly injured or fallen to the ground. It even knows when the officer is bleeding by detecting the sugar in human blood as it trickles over the sensors in the vest. The invention was actually featured along with 70 other projects recently at the Design Day at Vanderbilt University. So this is, it really sounds like a great vest, a smart vest, and we're really looking forward to seeing what it does for protecting officers. I can tell you from experience that when you're out on patrol, oftentimes, cities, counties, sheriff's departments, they're working with one-man vehicles, one-man cars. So recently in Kentucky, an officer was out on a traffic stop after a pursuit, and he was shot and killed. And dispatch, wasn't aware of it for a few minutes, but they were able to track him down. But by then, unfortunately, it was too late. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about disruptive and disorderly persons. How much training have you had with de-escalation techniques? How much training have you had with dealing with protesters, with dealing with violent, non-compliant, defiant persons? And I bet if you work in private security, it's not been a whole lot. Also want to recognize our sponsor before we go to our next break here. Body Armor USA. While we're talking about protection, while we're talking about body armor, bodyarmorusa.com. We've got what it takes to protect you. Check them out online. Give them a call today. Tell them that you're a POI member, and they'll give you a discount on all of your purchases. Again, bodyarmorusa.com. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat.
They only work if you wear them. Yes, Jim?
What are life jackets?
Correct!
I'll stick with life jackets for $400.
They come in new lightweight styles, perfect for any boating activity. Jim!
What are life jackets?
Yes!
Life jackets for $600, please.
Emergencies on the water happen too fast to reach them if they are stowed. Darlene?
What are anchors?
No, I'm sorry. Jim?
What are life jackets?
Correct!
Be a winner. Boat smart. Boat safe. Wear it. This message brought to you by the National Safe Boating Council.
Hi, I'm Corporal Dion Washington with the Gwinnett County Police Department. Take gun safety and education seriously. You could save the life of your child or someone else's. A gun owner's most important responsibility is keeping it out of the wrong hands. Always keep guns stored, locked, and out of reach of children by using a locked cabinet, safe, or gun vault. Parents, don't tell kids they are too young to talk about gun safety. If they don't learn correctly from you, they may learn from their friends, television, and video games. As kids get older, revisit the gun safety conversation based on their level of maturity. Remember to make it real and relatable for them. And kids, remember, if you see a gun, stop. Don't touch it, leave the area, and immediately tell an adult.
All right, you are back listening to the Private Officer Beat radio program brought to you by Private Officer International, a security and law enforcement association. I bet you haven't heard that. If you're a listener of POI on a regular basis, you've heard that many, many times. Private Officer International, almost 15 years ago, we began the Association for Private Security Frontline Protectors and Private Law Enforcement. So if you are an investigator or involved in uniform security, loss prevention, be sure to check us out. You can also sign up for our breaking news alerts. Sign up at privateofficer.com today. If you're looking to get out of the day-to-day grind of working for somebody else, and you've been thinking about working for yourself, and you love to deal with people, you love helping people, you love making your own hours, you love everything about business, then maybe you are an entrepreneur, and it's time for you to hook up with Armor College. Armor College is a specialized public safety workforce college and technical institute. Check them out at armorcollege.org. We're franchising right now, and we'd love to talk with you about how we can help you make your life much better. Today we are talking a little bit about the disturbing trend as we see it across the country. And this is a trend that is directly affecting private security in some of the most harmful ways. As we know, in the last 5 years or so, there's been an uptick, an uprise in people protesting, people being disruptive, people not only letting their voice be heard, but people who are becoming defiant, taking over buildings and shopping malls and streets and interstates. People who are out not only to protest, not only to let their opinion or their feelings be known, but they're out to disrupt. They're out to harm. They're out to cause chaos. They're out to stop traffic, to stop progress, industry, to stop businesses from making revenue. They are out in large numbers all over the country. In recent years, we've all seen the effects of that on TV. We've seen the Black Lives Matter protests. We've seen every time police use any level of force, even justifiable force, we've seen large numbers of people coming together to protest that use of force before they even know what happened, before they even know the facts. And even when they do know the facts, they don't care. They just want to be out there protesting. They just want to be out there being disruptive and disorderly and causing property damage and causing chaos. We see it all over the country. People today are protesting about everything. Recently in Charlotte, North Carolina, protesters protested about illegal immigration. Now, these protesters were illegal immigrants, and they made demands upon the city of Charlotte to force ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, force them out of the city. They demanded that the sheriff's department not comply with federal laws to detain illegal immigrants. These were people that they themselves were breaking the law already. They were illegal. They were here illegally. But they got together with some others and protested and caused traffic issues and all sorts of chaos. The Constitution of the United States does not give carte blanche to those who aren't even legal citizens. The U.S. Constitution applies to citizens, not to those who are here illegally. And let me just say this. I'm not anti-immigrants. As I've said numerous times, we all come from immigrant families. My parents are from Ireland and Italy. My grandparents are from Italy and Ireland. I have relatives up and down the family tree that are true immigrants coming over on the boat, coming through New York Statue of Liberty, coming through the right way. They didn't come here and protest. They came here and got a job, learned the language, and became viable citizens. People today are finding so many reasons to protest. And private security officers, who generally work alone, work at downtown high-rise buildings, work at public spaces, work at shopping malls, work in areas where they are being put in harm's way during these uprises, during these protests. A good example of that was 2 years ago in Dallas, or about a year and a half ago in Dallas, where the police officers were killed, where they were ambushed. Well, during that shooting, several security officers were also shot at, and a security officer at a college right downtown was shot by the suspect. Private security are everywhere. 1.5 to 2 million private security officers working in the U.S., they're bound to be in the middle of those protests, in the middle of those disturbances, in the middle of those use of force situations, in the middle of incidents where they're unarmed and cannot protect themselves, where they have a lack of training and can't really communicate, can't really intervene in the disturbances. You might say, well, they don't need to. They just need to go run, hide, and lock themselves in. That's all well and good if they have time, if they are alerted in advance, if they know what's happening. But a lot of times these protesters, these people involved in these disruptive incidents, come onto the property with little or no notice. And unless you have ESP or crystal ball, you're going to be in the middle. You're going to be in the mix, and there's no two ways about that. There's no way out. So it's important that private security officers do get training in crowd control, that they do get extra training in dealing with disruptive and disorderly persons. They need to know how to not only de-escalate, but how to communicate. There's a difference when we're talking about de-escalation techniques and communication skills. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, in all levels and types of businesses that can't communicate. They don't even talk well with their own family, spouses, or relatives. There's a lot of people who can't cope. They don't know how to express their feelings. They don't know how to say things the right way, how to put things in the right context. They don't know how to structure sentences so they're not offensive. And so here we have people in uniform, people who are protectors, people who are there to be that frontline person who sometimes they can't communicate. They're not effective in dealing with rowdy people, disorderly people. I can remember a video that I saw a few years back where a security officer was trying to explain to a person why they could not loiter, why they could not hang out on the property, and all he did was make it worse. The gentleman was genuinely asking why not. He genuinely was just trying to find out, well, I thought this was public property. Why can't I'm just going to be here for a few minutes, or I'm not doing anything. I'm not really breaking any law. Why can't I be here? And this security officer blew his top. He started screaming and yelling, pointing fingers, and before you know it, it really became head-on, face-to-face confrontation that would have went probably a whole lot worse if the security officer had been armed. But unfortunately, he was not armed. He didn't even have pepper spray. So I fear that had he been armed, had he had a taser, things really would have gotten out of hand even worse. We need to train our personnel how to communicate, how to explain what's happening, how to explain the rules, how to say, this is private property. I understand that you think it's public property, but it's not. It's owned by XYZ company. Normally, you might be able to come in and do business here, but right now we're shut down because of what's happening outside. It's important to be able to de-escalate the situation. And it's also important to be able to assess the threat and understand when the time of talking is over and it's time for action. And unfortunately, because of the lack of training, a lot of law enforcement, a lot of security, a lot of private police, they just don't have those skills. They just don't have that mindset, that training. These are things that we have to really consider in this day and age. We need to look at training. We need to look at the change in the times. Back when security was just access control and guards at the warehouse, we didn't need those skills. We didn't need those training hours. We didn't have to worry about communication that much. Hey, how's it going, Joe? Yeah, it looks like it's going to be raining again today. That was the extent of communicating with people on the job sites. But now, with private security being more proactive, being more engaged in criminal activity, investigations, confronting people, and being really the frontline protector, it's so important that we get our security staff trained up in communication and de-escalation techniques and understanding threat assessment and being able to judge when it's time for us to lock up and secure the place and get some help. It's equally important for us as managers and owners of security companies or proprietary security agencies for us to recognize that, hey, we've had a shooting, we've had a confrontation with law enforcement, we've had some incidents involving protesters because of a use of force incident here in the city, and our building is right downtown. Our building is right in the middle of ground zero. It might be wise if we keep our building locked up today, if we secure the building completely, if we hire on some extra armed personnel and, tighten up security during the next few days or weeks. We need to be better assessors of securing the property dependent on the type of atmosphere, situation, incident. On a normal day, when nothing's happening and there's been no incidents, no violence, no use of force by police, no protesters, everything is good, we might have a more open campus or a more open property. But on a situation where we've had a use of force, a police officer shooting and killing an unarmed person or whatever, or some type of protest because of immigrations, we probably need to really secure our property much tighter and really get more personnel in there. So assessing the threat is very important. We're living in a different day and time. And we can either put our head in the sand and make believe nothing's going to happen to us, or we can be prepared. Security personnel, I'm talking to you right now. Your employer may not offer this type of training. Let's be real. Most will only offer what's absolutely required by law. Unfortunately, it's going to be up to you. Up to you to get the type of training that you need to save your butt, to be able to communicate with people. I can understand what people are saying. I'm a good communicator. I know. Maybe on any given day, that might be true. Maybe in your environment, that might be true. Maybe, in the people that you communicate with, that might be true. But in a different environment, a different type of people, the defiant, the aggressive, the non-compliant, the vocal people, the method that you normally communicate, it just may not be the proper tone. It may not be the proper information, the proper method. So it's important that you get de-escalation techniques, but also communication techniques, because they are different. It's important that we begin to look at the world that we live in a much different way. In our profession, whether we were working for a public agency or a private security company, it's important for us to be properly trained and equipped. That is not only equipped with the proper tools, but equipped with the proper mindset, training, skills, information, and everything that it takes to be a well-rounded protector. I'm sad when I see, especially security officers, private officers, who are injured because they didn't have the proper tool. I'm sad when I see the dozens and hundreds of security officers arrested every year because they were trying to do the best. They just didn't know when to stop using force, or when to not be aggressive, or when to back down, back off. They didn't use good common sense. The job that we have today is not the job that it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. I know that you've heard me say that time and time again if you are a frequent listener to our radio show. But the facts are the facts. I'm worried. Even in my own city of Charlotte, North Carolina, I have seen violent riots in the last 2 years that have directly affected private security who are working unarmed in the high-rises, in the tall buildings, the skyscrapers, and other offices and properties in and around the downtown area. In fact, last year, during several nights of serious protests where buildings were vandalized and burnt down and lit on fire, there were several shootings. There was one person shot and killed in the middle of the protest. I really want us to understand that there are many more defiant people out there than there may have been 5 years ago. In many police traffic stops and many security interactions with people, they're seeing more and more people defiant. Why are you stopping me? Why are you stopping me? Am I being detained? Am I being arrested? Am I free to go? Why are you violating my constitutional rights? Do you have probable cause? I saw somebody on a video the other day asking a security officer, do you have probable cause? They're on private property. They don't need probable cause. Very important that we take inventory of what time it really is in our world. That we better prepare, we better train, we better have all the right equipment, all the right tools, and all of the right skills to protect our clients and ourselves. Nationwide, uprisings and protests about everything from illegal immigration to police use of force to school system inequality to everything you can think of is happening in small towns and big cities. We've got to be prepared. Or, unfortunately, security officers will be injured and killed or arrested because they lose the cool trying to do the right thing. That's all for today's radio program. Again, you've been listening to the Private Officer Beat. I'm your host, Rick McCann. We got a lot more to share with you in the upcoming weeks. We got a lot of exciting things happening with Armour College. We're opening new campuses in Pensacola, Florida, over in Gulfport, Mississippi, out in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, Kentucky, and Ohio, Tennessee. And again, if you'd like to get more information, go to armourcollege.org. We're running out of time, so we're going to wrap it up, and we hope that you stay safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio program.